We like to do a little prophecy update each week. We reserve a few minutes Sunday morning to suggest news or trends that seem to be predicted by a literal and futurist reading of the Bible. We anticipate that the about 500 unfulfilled prophecies of the end times will be fulfilled literally, just as all previous prophecy has. We use recognized, reliable sources for our news. That's because we don't want to be accused of sensationalism and looking under every rock for a fulfillment of prophecy. And we're not saying the things we report are the fulfillment of prophecy, only that they are things you'd expect by holding a Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. So we talk a lot about the fact that Bible futurists have long understood that in the last days and then going into the 7-year Great Tribulation, there's going to be a global system of personal identification by which everyone will conduct all of their business. And then 3.5 years into the tribulation, the man Revelation calls the beast, we call him the Antichrist. He has about 30 names in Scripture, and those are the two most common. He's going to demand everyone swear allegiance to him. Those who won't worship him are going to be blocked from buying or selling anything. Until recently, it was almost impossible to believe that there could be a global system that could work like this and that people all over the world would go for it, especially people here in the United States who love their privacy. COVID-19 could be accelerating global acceptance of invasive contactless digital ID. Here's an article, Learning from Taiwan about responding to COVID-19 by using electronic health records. Taiwan reported 446 cases and just 7 deaths for over 24 million people in their country. On a per capita basis, the United States has 1,200 times as many COVID-19 deaths as Taiwan. They could easily have been a COVID-19 disaster. Taiwan is situated less than 100 miles from China, and more than 1 million Taiwanese work in China. There is frequent travel between the two countries. Taiwan is at high risk of exposure, so why didn't they get exposed? The most important element is Taiwan's deliberate, systematic use of its digital health infrastructure. The key to avoiding massive, economically ruinous lockdowns is effective testing, isolation, contact tracing to control viral spread. Taiwan's innovative electronic health record system made possible the country's swift, targeted response. Every person in Taiwan has a health card with a unique ID that all doctors and hospitals use to access online medical records. Providers use the card to document care episodes for reimbursement from the Ministry of Health. As a result, the card gives the ministry regular, nearly real-time data on physician and hospital visits and use of specific services. The government merged the health card database with information from Immigration and Customs to send physicians alerts about patients at higher risk for having COVID-19 based on travel history. Utilization data was also employed to identify candidates for COVID-19 testing when supplies were limited. As researchers reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association, Taiwan enhanced COVID-19 case finding by proactively seeking out patients with severe respiratory symptoms based on info from the National Health Insurance database who had tested negative for influenza. They retested them for COVID. The availability of almost immediate data on patient visits allowed the country to efficiently identify, test, trace, and isolate cases. This has dramatically reduced COVID-19 spread without the need for extensive lockdowns. Now that sounds wonderful, but it's based on invasive access to medical records. Doctors, hospitals, immigration, they have access to everybody's records, and they're talking about figuring out where you traveled and what you did and who you were exposed to and then contacting you or having your doctor contact you. So it's essentially digital identification with no privacy. People are excited about it and use it as a model because of such limited cases of COVID-19. And it's pretty remarkable, you have to admit, only 7 cases with no lockdowns or shut-ins or anything like that, or 7 deaths, I should say. And so this is what I see happening with COVID-19. People say, is it part of the end times? And not the disease itself, but the idea that it is bringing the world together digitally in a way that I wouldn't have thought possible even 6 months ago, especially here in the United States. But everybody seems to be on board, and it'd be very easy for them to create a database of whatever information they want of everybody in the world, and you will have to participate in this system. It's like I said last week, you don't have to wear a mask, but you can't go into any stores if you don't wear a mask, unless you're a rebel, I guess. And then who knows what's going to happen? Maybe the mask police will come or something like that. But who was that unmasked man? That's our new statement, right? Remember Zorro? Who was that man? Who is that unmasked man? But the thing about it is, if the government says you have to have digital ID that shows your COVID status, and they scan for it, and they say, well, you can't go in here. Well, how am I going to buy groceries? Well, you're not. How am I going to go to the bank? Well, you're not. And so it gets everybody on board. And I think most people are on board with that because they would rather have that than the crisis that we have and the chaos that we have today. A digital ID is not the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is something that happens in the middle of the Great Tribulation. And for the first 3.5 years, there's lots of things that let a person know they're in the Great Tribulation. We are not, and we won't be. But when you get to the middle of it and the Antichrist is going to say, hey, I'm taking over this entire global system and I want you to worship me or swear allegiance to me, if nothing else, a powerful angel is going to be in the sky preaching the gospel and telling you not to take this mark. And so no one is going to take the mark of the beast inadvertently. You're not going to get a digital ID or even a chip implant and realize that you've been damned to hell. That's not how it works. It's a personal decision. And so I'm not really afraid of technology. I don't know how long we'll be here before the Lord comes. He could come at any moment. It seems like it's going to get weirder before it gets less weird, especially here in California. But Jesus will come in the clouds. He's going to raise the dead believers of the church age. Then he will rapture the living believers on the earth and catch us all up to heaven before the tribulation. The question is, are you ready for that rapture? If not, get ready and stay ready and keep looking up, because ready or not, Jesus is coming.